Good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Nice cool breeze on the face. I love it. Hair's growing a bit too long though, I think. Maybe time to go over it. Give myself a buzz cut. Give myself a army short, as it were, back in the 1950s, where they only knew one hairstyle. But of course, you didn't come here to find out that I'm going to use the clippers. No, as usual, I want to talk some more politics and maybe a little bit of bollocks here and there. But at least I'm honest about it, unlike Keir The Traitor Starmer. But I think what we need to focus on more than anything is getting prepared for the 26th of October. Keir The Traitor Starmer is terrified of Tommy Robinson. Though, to be fair, if I was the establishment, I would probably be afraid of Tommy Robinson. I'd probably be grabbing my knackers at this point and thinking, oh Christ, what am I going to do? He's coming for me. Better check under the bed for Tommy Robinson, you know, that kind of shit. But, of course, it isn't me who's in danger. It's Keir The Traitor Starmer. I almost feel like breaking out into a fucking Christmas song, you know. How they did that song of, you better watch out, you better not cry. Something, 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 and he's telling you why. Because Tommy Robinson is coming to town, or something like that. Anyway, the point is, Tommy has got this rally readied up. He is ready to give what I feel is the knockout punch for our establishment. Or at bare minimum, give them a good old beating. Of course, orally and metaphorically speaking, not literally. But before I do that, I'm just going to briefly recap the couple of videos I did on Farage, because I do understand where people are coming from. Hell, I even used to be of that belief. The trouble with Farage is he's had plenty of opportunities to make things right. And much as I am loath to say that we need him right now, the cold bitter truth is he is not doing himself any favours by throwing people under the bus. That's where I have the beef. Yes, I will always be thankful to Farage for actually giving the establishment something to worry about, and of course for giving us Brexit. But it doesn't change the fact he has made some terrible mistakes. And have I been impulsive with Nigel Farage? Yeah, I'd probably say I have. I'll probably admit that much. I probably have been a bit impulsive. But it's the thing. I don't appreciate people who are going to go out their way to libelously slander ordinary British people. Which is why I was quite rightly pissed off at Nigel Farage. The way I look at things is, while Nigel Farage is the pie leader, I can't stand the guy anymore. Do we support reform? Yes, I think we do, because we need to get reform into power. I think we need reform in power because we need to make sure we have a politician, a prime minister, who actually cares for this country. But unfortunately, Nigel Farage is not one of those people. Nigel Farage is the running man, put simply. When the going gets tough, Nigel Farage gets going. I think we need somebody like Lee Anderson as our Prime Minister, not Nigel Farage. But that's just my humble opinion, which is, as always, subjective. I can understand as well, devil's advocate here, I can understand the other side saying he's trying to be careful. He has a plan. He doesn't want to give the mainstream media an AK-47 with a fucking drum mag on it to fire at him. But I personally feel like it's cowardice, quite frankly. Bollocks to what the mainstream media think. Here's the thing. The British people are not really tuning in to the mainstream media right now, because they know they're full of shit, bluntly speaking. Like the moment you hear on the news, oh, this, that and the other's happened, my first reaction is believe the opposite. Now, if we can get some of the NPCs who are fast asleep, give them the red pill, my God, that would be a huge boost for the movement. Because then they'd be like, oh, so that's the game they're playing now. And then the mainstream media's grip on this country will dissipate. Just like that. But of course the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks. Because, say it with me, it doesn't suit the narrative. But I am deviating a little bit here. Let's get back onto the event itself. While they haven't confirmed a starting location, what we do know is that we'll end up pretty much outside 10 Downing Street, where we will be able to give Keir the Traitor Starmer a royal oral evisceration. Or is it koto shigemetsu? God, I really should take up some Japanese sessions, then I'd be able to remember what I said. Anyway, we'll be able to really give him an oral beatdown. And man alive, does that guy deserve one. Keir the Traitor Starmer deserves everything that's coming to him. I'm not going to advocate for violence against him. I'm not going to advocate for anybody to attempt an assassination on him, because I'm not the left wing. But I will advocate for people to tear this guy a new one orally. I will definitely advocate for Keir the Traitor Starmer to be arrested under treason, under crimes against humanity, and breaching the Human Rights Act. Oh, I'll 100% endorse that shit. But we need to be able to galvanise a nation while doing so. I cannot stress enough how much I'm hoping that Tommy Robinson will take notice, and I'm hoping the more of these videos that get shared, the more of these videos that reach Tommy Robinson, the more likely I'll have that chance to completely obliterate Keir the Traitor Starmer, and maybe even blow the houses of treachery, I mean Parliament. Or maybe I was right first time, but blow those houses down. I most definitely fucking will. But in order to do that, we must respect Tommy Robinson's wishes, which means absolutely no face coverings, no excuses, no exceptions, no equivocations, and no crying. The main way they're going to put instigators into the rally to try and discredit it, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to try and discredit it, but they're going to try and put instigators in. How are they going to do that? They're going to cover their faces. But what happens when everyone else is not wearing face coverings? All of a sudden, it's like putting what I'm wearing right now. Hi, Viz. I'm going to stand out like a sore thumb, basically. That's the whole point of it. It's basically there so that when these fuckers do come along, which they will, because Keir the Traitor Starmer does not want this stroke number one, does not want this movement to succeed. They want it put out in the media. Look at Tommy Robinson and the far right, who are inciting violence and hatred and Islamophobia and attacking the police and all that shit. That's what they're going for right now. They will do everything they can to make that the headlines. They can't do that if we're peaceful, though. They can't do that if we expose their little instigating wankers and show them up for the world to see. They won't be able to do that if they can't cover themselves up, because if they do, we'll find out who they are. And if they don't cover up, then yeah, they'll be able to blend in better, but we'll then be able to find out who they are and then expose them names and faces for the world to see. That's the trouble. The media and the establishment are going to be in a catch-22. They'll be fucked if they do and fucked if they don't. Then, of course, there's the factor in of if they're masking up, they're going to end up scaring the kids. Well, I don't need to do that. All I need is my morph suit and come in, just like I did to some of my employees on Halloween. Anyway, the point is, it's going to scare the kids as well, which is going to make them not want to come along. But we want something where everyone is going to want to be a part of this movement. Men, women, children, grandfathers, grandmothers, veterans, people from all walks of life. We're going to want all of them to be there to show support. We can galvanise the nation with this movement, but we have to do it by the book. Yes, I have said I think we've got 2 to 5 months at most, looking more like 1 to 4 since already I feel like 2 months have gone by, but I digress. The point is, the only way this is going to be successful is if we follow this down by the book to the letter. And do not give the establishment, do not give Keir the Traitor Starmer any excuses to put laws in place that will stop us from being able to protest. that will stop us from being able to come out in force. Because that's ultimately what they want at the end of the day. They're more than willing to have pro-plasticine come out and instigate violence against the police, and the police will take fuck all action against them, just like they took fuck all action against the Muslims who went out and attacked Manchester Airport police not once, but twice. There was a guy who gave a female officer a broken nose. He still hasn't been charged, which is something the mainstream media are going to be very reluctant to tell you about. But it's high time that we showed those traitors in the establishment who the real enemies are. Because the only thing the establishment is good for is projecting all their problems onto everyone else. They want to blame the far right for everything. They want to blame the Tories for everything else. But here's the thing, as I've mentioned before in other videos, and will say here again, they can't keep putting their blame on the supposed far right and the Tories, because some of these were not born of that. It was born of the Labour government's own treachery and deceit. The 22 billion black hole, turns out that was a big fucking myth. Turns out they didn't want to tell us that this was all pie in the sky. I could do with some apple pie. Anyway, it was all pie in the sky. It was all nonsense. It was all bullshit. It was just them trying to make excuses as to why they're doing this. There is no 22 billion pound black hole. It's just more fibs from the establishment. Here's the thing. Let me school you a little bit on about truths and lies. The thing with lies is that every time you tell one, it's another lie that you have to remember. Whereas the truth, you don't have to remember. Well, that's not specifically true. It's nice to remember it, but you don't have to worry about defending it because it defends itself. Like, if they were to just tell the truth on a lot of this stuff, I guarantee you, half this shit wouldn't be a problem for them right now. But because they keep lying, the establishment, the media, the two-tier police, the two-tier judiciary, that's why they're in such a rut right now. And what people need to remember is Keir the Traitor Starmer has done everything he can to say he will protect the Muslim community, and the Muslims, mainly the Sunni Islamic ones. He said he will do everything he can to protect them and their community, being a sectarianist bastard, put simply. But what people are beginning to find out is a lot of the pro-plasticine people, you know, the ones who support Hezbollah and Hamas and are basically calling for the genocide of Jews, yeah, that lot. These people, when they go out to protest in London or wherever, while they are usually mostly peaceful, it doesn't change the fact that they usually end up descending to violence, which usually ends up in dozens of arrests. Again, the mainstream media will be reluctant to tell you that. But there will usually be dozens of arrests on these fuckers, though a lot of them are usually released without charge, or if they are charged, we're never told about it. I wonder why. That's the thing. All the mainstream media are good at is one of two things: lying through their teeth or lying through omission. They usually don't like to tell you the things that are genuinely truths because they know it would make their globalist Marxist agenda look bad. And of course the socialism of Keir the Traitor Starmer. Did Tommy used to have a few hiccups here and there? Yeah, of course he did. He had a few hiccups. He's sometimes still quite excitable, and I can't really blame him for that shit because he's very, very passionate about what he does. And he is sick and tired, like a lot of British people, of the treachery, the deceit, and the grooming gangs and the illegal immigration that continue to flow in this country. What I find particularly funny, though, is Keir the Traitor Starmer could easily do something about the protests from pro-plasticine. You know, the wankers who keep on also saying, from the river to the sea, plasticine will be free. Basically, as said, calling for the genocide of Jews. It is a very, very aggressive thing for those guys to say, and that's putting it nicely. Do you hear anybody from the supposed far right saying anything like that? You may see people saying, who the Jeff is Allah, but generally speaking, A lot of the people who go up to these rallies are sensible and rational, and the only people who are saying that slogan are, to put it simply, either the uneducated, the idiotic, or perhaps worse still, the actual infiltrators themselves. But even then, that's not racism. It's just saying, who the hell is Allah? Nothing more. It's not like they're saying all Muslims should die. It's not like they're saying all black people should be this, that, and the other. Far from it. And I'll tell you right now, if there was any kind of that notion that they were a white supremacist group or against black people or anybody with yellow skin, green skin, pink skin, whatever, I'm out. Simple as that. But you know what? I've never left that group. You know why? Because there isn't any of that shit. The only people who are going to do that are the people who are not really on our side. Simple as that. I know how to behave myself. I know how to conduct myself. Unlike the clown on one of the buses I went on who was trying to say, oh, there are children on board, you shouldn't swear. When I actually said my swear word outside the bus, before he'd even pulled in, and before he opened the fucking door, bluntly speaking. But the establishment will do every dirty, unscrupulous trick in the book to try and make sure this movement fails. Because this movement will make or break Keir the Traitor Starmer and this iron grip that he has on this country. If this succeeds, it is going to deal such a decisive blow to that tyrannical bastard, and nothing will put a bigger shit-eating grin on my face than that. And remember all those slogans that the left wing like to throw out at us like they're frisbees? Name tags, basically. Far right, Nazis, racists, fascists. That's just a few of them. Islamophobe, of course, another favourite they love to throw out at us. But it is literally all projection. It is all just name tags they want to throw out because they themselves are the real ones who are the bigots, the fascists, the racists, the Islamophobes, the inciters of hatred, the inciters of violence, the people who are Anglophobic, if we want to start playing their little game with their little Islamophobia tag, which I know full well Islamophobia doesn't exist because it would be an irrational fear. But we can see there are people who are genuinely afraid of Islam because of what we've seen in this country. The terrorist attacks, the grooming gangs, the intolerance towards the West, the desire to implement Sharia law into Great Britain. Well, last time I checked, this is England, not Englandistan. And if they don't like this country, they can go back to whatever third world shithole these people have come from. Because we don't want them here. We don't want people who don't want to integrate with our society, who don't respect our cultures and beliefs, and don't want to contribute. We don't want them. And it would be a good chance for us to take out the trash, metaphorically speaking. How sad is it as well, just as a bit of a side story, how sad is it at a Labour conference when the British public were asking them, when I think, was it the CIC or CIS report or whatever it was, when they were asking for this report to be published, their spokespeople were getting booed, and they're basically saying, the spokesman, stop booing us. Well, you know what? If you don't want to be booed, start doing things the British people respect, rather than treat us all like we're fucking monkeys, bluntly speaking. If you don't want us to boo at you, do something the British people want, not what the British people don't want. Like, what an absolute bunch of fucking clowns, the lot of them. And they wonder why the Labour Party, or is it the Traitor Party, is so despised in this country right now. But back on point, Tommy's movements, Tommy's protests, rallies, whatever you want to call them, have always been organised and worked around with the Metropolitan Police. Much as we loathe them, we have to at least give them credit on that much. They are at least willing to work with Tommy to make sure these things are safe. It's usually not the coppers on the streets that are the problem. It's the people that are pulling the strings. It's the people higher up who would rather have their own forces focus on people posting memes on the internet rather than, oh, I don't know, real crime, burglaries, stabbings, murders, grooming gangs, to name a few. If we want to be angry at the police, it's the people at the top that we should be worried about. It's only when the ordinary members of the police are taking pleasure in this shit, that's when we should start focusing on them. Otherwise, at least some of those policemen are actually, and women, are willing to actually work with us and actually make sure that we have a safe protest, because it is in their terms of service to basically make sure that these protests go smoothly. There isn't any instigated violence by the police or failures within the police to make sure the protests are safe. It will do the police and the establishment no favours if they go out of their way to sabotage the rally, because all that'll do is it will cause the ordinary members of the public, the people that are still fast asleep, as it were, who haven't taken the red pill yet, it will cause them to realise what's going on, and more of them will join our side. And even worse still, it may even get to a stage where, worst case scenario, they do get their violent revolution, but it will be painting the establishment in such a negative light that they won't be able to justify anything. Now let me be clear, I don't want a violent revolution, I want it to be peaceful, by every means. I have said this before, I will say it again until I'm blue in the face. I don't want a violent revolution, I want a peaceful resolution. But if they force it, it'll be on the establishment's hands, not ours. Like, they can sit there and be like, oh, you see, they are far-right and racist and thugs and football hooligans and lockdown protesters and blah, blah, blah. They can keep doing that shit. But eventually the British public is going to see through that BS, and they're going to realise, well, you know what? These guys have clearly been persecuted by the establishment, the two-tier police, the two-tier media, the two-tier judiciary, the two-tier governing. They will see that. And ultimately, they're not going to take the side of the establishment, or at least anybody with a brain will, or will not take sides with them. They will side with us, because they will see the shit that we've had to go through over the last anything from 4 to 10 or more years. As I've said before, I may be living in the liberal town of Norwich, but I've had people come up to me in Iceland as I'm coming out now, and I have to go there anyway because I've got to get a few bits and bobs. But that aside, I may be living in Norwich, a liberal town, but there are some people who can clearly see the dishonesty, the deceit, the treachery, the outright injustice that's going on in this country. And they're going to eventually start deciding, you know what, we've had enough of being passive. We're standing up and we're going to make ourselves known. People like me, we're sick of it. Man alive, something's going on down there. Anyway, the point is, there are going to be British people who are going to stand up. They're going to stand up and be accounted for. They're going to stand up and they're going to say, you know what? What's going on is fundamentally wrong. It's not going to be long before the British people decide to come out, not just in my town in Norwich, but around the whole of the UK. They're going to come out and they're going to say, you know what? Enough's enough. It depends on Keir the Traitor Starmer when that's going to be. I will never advocate for violence. Tommy Robinson has never advocated for violence. Maya Toosey, Paul Thorpe, Richard Inman have never advocated for violence. Jeff Taylor, I believe is his name, has not advocated for it. I don't think anybody with a brain would. But there comes a time where we've tried jaw and it may not be working. What do you think people have left to work with when you deny them peaceful resolution? When you make peaceful resolution impossible, you make violent revolution inevitable. That's the cold, bitter truth. What we have right now, I feel like it goes to 4 stages. You have frustration, you then have anger, you then have resentment, and then you have violence. That's the way I look at it. People get frustrated that their country that should be loving them hates them back. You have anger when the government actively refuses to do its civic duty to the British people. You then have resentment because they seem to hate them and despise their guts for who they are. White British people, white English people, being spurned by their own government, by their own media, by their own fucking judiciary, where we have political prisoners being sent to jail for posting videos on the internet, posting memes on the internet, growling at a dog, shouting at police, getting 20 months, 3 years, 5 years in prison, while nonces like Hugh Degenerate Edwards are getting out with a suspended sentence. Suspended for 2 years, 6 months. He may as well be given a pat on the fucking back. And you wonder why people like me are angry. Because that's the stage we're at right now. And to some degree, I do have a bit of resentment in me. I'm not afraid to admit that. And if Keir the Traitor Starmer is smart, he will realise that there is an overwhelmingly negative reception for him. An overwhelmingly negative one. He will realise what's going on, and he'll realise his position is completely untenable. Have you heard of the saying, the candle that burns twice as bright burns out twice as fast? Well, I'll tell you right now, he doesn't burn very bright already, and his candle is most definitely running out. Keir the Traitor Starmer would do well to remember that, because at the end of the day, he's supposed to serve the British people, not himself. He's not supposed to be giving Labour MPs a pay rise to bring them up to 170 grand a frickin' year. He is not supposed to be allowing his MPs to claim expenses at our expense for second homes. They get £3,000 in heating, while the elderly have to go without. They can give 600 million to Ukraine, but they can't give £300 to the elderly, who might freeze their tits off to death in this winter. That's why there are people who are quite rightly angry, and some of them even have the same level of resentment for this government that I do. What I find even more sickening, though, is now NHS people have basically been saying, oh, you're white British? Well, you're at the back of the queue, while we look for people who need a translator first to be seen by our NHS. Now, I don't know about you, but surely the NHS should be a national health service for British people first, and not for everyone else who isn't British first. Or have I used too much of that rare resource called common sense these fucking days? That's the thing. I'm not afraid to say things like this. I'm not afraid to say it how it is. Because say it with me, folks. I'm not going to sugarcoat a motherfucking thing. I am not going to mince my words. I will say it exactly how it is. And I will do my best not to bullshit you. This is why this movement is so important. We must make sure Tommy Robinson's movement succeeds. No matter whether you like the guy, hate the guy, or are undecided about Tommy Robinson. Even ordinary people have to see that this government is completely corrupt. It is completely not fit for purpose. And it wouldn't be able to run a bath, let alone the fucking country. That is why people should make their plans for the 26th of October to be down in London, to face the treachery of this establishment, and it's time to take out the trash and place it in the dustbin of history where it rightfully belongs. Because despite what Keir the Traitor Starmer may think, this is our country, not his. These are our people, not his. This is our establishment, not his. And if he doesn't want us to come in force and take him out of that position of power, he will start respecting us. He will start giving the British people what they want, rather than try to feed his own pockets, feed his own ego, and give himself more power so he can continue to serve Davos. It's time Keir the Traitor Starmer was exposed for what he is: a tyrant, a dictator, a traitor. because that's all he will ever amount to. And this is our chance on the 26th of October to show the world that. Because the whole world will be watching. And they will want to showcase to the world, Tommy Robinson and his crew, just how much of a scumbag that Keir the Traitor Starmer is. It's not just down to Tommy, though. It's not down to Maya Toosey, Paul Thorpe, Richard Inman, all the usuals. It's down to us. There's far more of us, normal people, than there are heroes like Tommy Robinson. Heroes are few and far between, whereas we, the British public, are numerous, and we are legion. And together, we can showcase to the world who this man is, Keir the Traitor Starmer. And we will take back this country from the traitors who think they can control us.